Welcome back to Mindkind Podcasts. This is Dr. Jo North returning to our platform. Mindkind continues to be a reflective space for anyone who wants to stay sane in our demanding world. Our intention is to inspire, motivate and inform people of all ages interested in mental health and well-being. I'll be drawing on 35 years of practice as a psychotherapist, and we'll be looking at research and therapy along the way and talking with other experts in the field so we can draw on their skill. Nothing in this podcast is intended to cause you shock or surprise. If you think a subject is going to cause any triggering to any conditions that you have, please don't listen and just choose another podcast of interest. If you happen to be in a podcast and something in there triggers some kind of anxiety or stress for you, please switch off straight away and contact your mental health professional. If something affects the mind, we'll be talking about it. So let's get on with today's podcast. Jo North here. We're back with Mindkind. And I'm so sorry for the absence, but we have been developing the Foodsane website, foodsane.co.uk, and I've been getting the audio book up and getting the book up, Foodsane. The madness stops here. And a lot of our Mindkind broadcasts and podcasts are now going to be on Foodsane because it's a subject that I'm really, really interested in. I know a lot about, and I know that people suffer enormously with weight and with eating and with the environment that we live in around food. There's a lot of information out there. There's lots of ideas about GLP-1, which really does help people lose weight, but then there's a lot of psychology to go with that. So in this podcast, I'm going to be telling you about Foodsane, and I'm going to be telling you about why I wrote it, but I'm going to be telling you about the principles of time-related eating, so that if you want to get on to the community and join us, we so would love to have you there. Please get on soon and come and talk to us about your time-related eating journey, and you can track yourself on there. We've got a tracker that Tamsin Carter, the amazing Tamsin Carter, has developed. She's using it, I'm using it, everybody's using it. So you can track your eating window in a day, and you can track how your mood is in a day, and you can see the correlation, which is very, very interesting. And you can also write to us and you can hear directly from me in response if you join the community. So do go and take a look, because we've done a lovely job with that beautiful website. But today is all about time-related eating and how you can dive in there tomorrow. Oh, actually today, if you want to. Yeah, that's good. So I wrote the book Foodsane because I was so interested in pulling together all of the science and all of the personal experience around food and eating. I have put on weight consistently throughout my life, and I was a fat child, and so I know all about developing a personality around a weight problem. I restricted my eating drastically throughout my lifetime. And I was an expert dieter, but it never got me anywhere. And what I found was that I was always putting back on weight and thinking, what is wrong with me? And when I understood the science of time-related eating, I realized there was nothing wrong with me. There was something wrong with what I'd been told to do. And that's the big breakthrough piece of information. It's just like calories in, calories out isn't really going to work in the end. It just simply oppresses the body and puts you in a restrictive state. And of course, the less and less you eat, and I found I was eating so little, and still I could put on weight very easily. The less and less you eat, the body adapts quite naturally, because the body's brilliant and wants to keep us surviving. So the body adapts to less. Whereas the time-related eating, in fact, you can just eat perfectly normal amounts within a window and within a time frame. But you give the body a rest from eating, and I call it downtime from food. You can call it fasting if you like, although I tend to think that the idea of fasting makes people feel a bit hungry. I mean, I hear the word fast and I want to dive for sandwiches, but time-related eating, what that suggests is that I measure the time. And for all of you obsessive restrictors out there, and even for those of you on we take all comers on the Foodsane website. So if you are a person who's had stomach surgery, if you are on weight loss medication, if you are dieting with the standard diet, just come and join us and see how you can adapt to thinking about a time frame rather than counting calories. You don't have to do that, but really also the underlying thrust for us is the body mind connection, because it's proven to me, as I am a time related eater and I've done that nearly for 2 years now. And as I've become that person, I find that I have a beautiful reconnection with my body, which I've never really had in my lifetime. I mean, who doesn't want to share that great experience? And as I say on the front of the website, we were never meant to be at war with our body. I'll say it one more time. We were never meant to be at war with our body. We're supposed to be at peace with our body. The body mind is there to keep us alive, keep us thriving, keep us living, as long as we possibly can and as long as our lifespan and health span dictates. So there's more to it. We're not talking about weighing yourself constantly. We're talking about so much beyond the scales. You can weigh yourself if you want. And in my book, Foodsane, I talk about the battle with the scales, and I talk about my decision to face down this tyrant called the weighing scales and form a relationship with the weighing scales, that it didn't oppress me, that it simply just told me a figure about my weight. But you don't have to do that with time related eating, because you will notice how your body starts to transform itself because you are eating with your own personal biology. So let me give you some information about starting time related eating. And as you can probably tell, I've got a lot to say. In fact, so much to say that I keep a daily diary, and the diary is called A Year on a Raft. And RAFT stands for Right Amount, Right Food, Right Time, which is the principle of the style of eating that I'm proposing for people, or the style of eating that I found. That's my own formula, RAFT, right amount, right food, right time. I do a daily diary. I publish it every month, and you have access to everything that I've been experiencing. And I decided I'm not going to edit that. I'm going to talk about real life and time related eating and how that is possible. So it's raw, and I'll also send out a monthly newsletter. And also, if you sign up for the website, you get 2 free chapters of the book, and you can have access to all the back diaries. And yeah, I can't wait. I just want you to join us. Anyway, here we are with information about time related eating for those of you that want to jump in and get started. Time related eating is a compassionate, body positive approach that works with your biology, your human biology, and not against it. The simple answer, what is time related eating, is that you eat during a specific time window each day, and then you give your body a rest or downtime. And we know now that both body and brain need downtime. And one of our problems in our super speedy, stressed out, anxious world is we don't get enough of this downtime. Why does time related eating work? It's because your body operates, whether you like it or not, a 24-hour circadian rhythm. And when you align your eating with this natural circadian cycle, everything improves: your energy, your mood, your digestion, and often your weight too. And the beautiful study for that is the Zoe study, where over 35,000 people joined in with them on about 3 weeks, I think it was, of eating in a 14-10 window. So that meant that they ate for 10 hours and rested for 14 hours. Don't panic if that sounds too much for you. It's a relatively moderate start, but it doesn't have to be where you start. People could eat what they wanted in their 10 hours, but in their 14 hours, they did only drink water or black tea or black coffee. And I'll talk to you about the downtime in a minute. But the outcome was that people reported consistently elevated mood, lots more energy, better sleep, and in some cases, weight loss. So that was quite a big study, and there's lots of others that I will tell you about. But we know that that circadian approach to eating, in my view, is the place to be. And the good news is that you don't have to restrict your food and you don't have to count calories. What you will notice is if you take the time to eat in a window, your body will start saying no to certain things. You don't have to force that. You don't actually have to, torture yourself. You will find that gradually you will adjust to less food because you want to. And that's an amazing thing that I find amazing. I simply can't overeat now because I don't want to. And I do know that, and I want to include in everybody here because I do know that people on diet medication, the GLP-1 medications, I know they can't eat a lot, but they might find eating in a window helps them particularly prepare for when they come off medication because we don't want you having a hard time. You'll have lost your weight and then you're going to get in a panic about coming off of that. And time related eating is a great way to support yourself, staying consistent. Anyway, if you decide, oh, that sounds interesting, and I was one of those overnight people, I heard about this one day and I did it the next day, that's what I'm like, but not everybody's like that. And I do talk about that in the book. You might want to contemplate this idea. You might want to think about this for a little while. You might want to talk to people about this. Take your time. There's no rules. Okay, so a good place to start is to choose your eating window. So if you are a total beginner, I would suggest you start with practicing, and it's all about practice and experimentation. And I would suggest you start with 12 hours on, 12 hours off, because that's very comfortable. But make it less. And there is a way in the book, I do suggest less. And in the training on the website, I also suggest less, that you just start to notice what happens in your downtime and also in your uptime. But what will happen is that if you just did that for a week and you noticed what happens for you, and then you can start experimenting and talking with yourself. And most of this is about what you say to yourself. In fact, most of life is about what you say to yourself. We call it self-talk in my psychology industry. But it ultimately what you say to yourself. And if you find that practicing with this easy start makes you feel happy, you feel good, you might find you want to extend that to 10 hours of eating and 14 hours of downtime. But the thing is, nobody's forcing you. You are doing it because you want to. So one thing I suggest, if it all sounds abominable to you, is I say to people, just notice what happens in 1 hour without food. And I do mean without, I don't mean, chewing gum or nuts or, creamy coffee. I mean, a drink of water or a cup of black coffee or a cup of black tea, if that's what you want. But I do mean 1 hour, and just notice your stomach can cope very well without food. And one of the things that will start to happen over time, and it's certainly happened with me, is that my body now, my stomach, my body, mind, my connection, the stomach talks to the brain. The stomach receptors actually connect with the brain receptors. And for many of us with a weight problem, that's what has got blocked. And it's got blocked through eating foods that stop this natural conversation, or it's got blocked through simply that we don't listen anymore. But what will happen is that the stomach will start to talk clearly. And my stomach now says to me, look, I actually really love time without food. I love time with food. I mean, don't get me wrong. I eat loads of great food, but my stomach says, actually, I really like time without food. I actually look forward to my downtime now. I didn't at first. But after a little while, it started to feel really good. And that's what I want people to start to edge themselves towards. So, and if you're ready, if you practice for a week, and you think, oh, I'm good at this, which I hope you do, you can work towards another kind of window, 14:10 or 16:8 or 18:6. Now, it can be less, it can be what you like, it can be 17:13, it doesn't have to be those exact round numbers. I actually eat really well within a 4 hour window in a day, that because I'm pretty well attuned to time related eating. But I really don't suggest you start there if you've not done this before. Don't hurt yourself. Um, Sometimes I have a 6 hour window, and as I'm always saying, Christmas is coming soon, and I always say, oh, I'll be having a 12-hour eating window. I'm going to enjoy myself, but I'll soon want to get back to my downtime. Okay, so that's the principle. Start easy, please. And if it's only an hour, it's only an hour. And during your rest time or your downtime, as I like to call it, or clean fast. I know the amazing Jen Stevens, who has a wonderful book out on intermittent fasting. She refers to this as clean fast. No problem with that. It's just not what I call it. But in that time, you just got to be mindful. It's got to be water, black tea, black coffee. We're not talking about milk in your drinks, and we're not talking about little snacks, and we're not talking about alcohol, and we're not talking about fizzy drinks, and we're not talking about 0 calorie drinks. We're not talking about chewing gum. We're not talking about sucking sweeties. Nothing. No, no, no. Do stop. Now, look, I'm a realist and I know what we're like, and I've done every experiment in the book with this. And if you're trying with 12-12 and you can't get through without a diet, don't have it. Have it. But on the whole, what we're heading towards is a nice downtime or a good clean fast. You do want to clean it up, because actually what you end up doing is your body thinks it's getting food, and what you will do if you start doing that is you will make yourself more hungry than you need to be, because the stomach starts to say, oh, I'm getting food, so I'll start to prepare for that. But let's be realistic. You're going to make a few mistakes, and he who never made a mistake never made anything. So try and work with that. As I say in my book, 0 calorie fizzy drinks, they do probably spike your insulin. We're not entirely sure, but they do make the body think it's getting sugar. But if that's your start of cutting back on sugar, then you start there. Let's not criticize people for where they start. We make these small steps forward, and that's what we're all about in Foodsane. So step two is when you've got your time frame in place, and that time frame will adapt over months and years, because what happens generally is people get into a lifestyle on this, and they are then time related eaters. But what you will start to do is you'll start to think about the food you want, and generally what we're going for is you're going to end up wanting really good quality food in your eating window. And sugar, if you're going to have a bun and a double milkshake, you do it if you're going to have that in your eating window. But those kind of foods, those sort of sugary, high fat, ultra processed sort of foods, they are going to make you more hungry when you have your downtime. So, you'll notice that. You'll start to notice. But I mean, every now and then it's well recorded. I'll go out for a super sticky bun, and I make sure I enjoy it. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to enjoy it. But on the whole, I don't. And it's not, because I don't want to, I literally don't want to. So there are lots of great natural foods that you're going to gradually learn to eat, and they help sustain your eating window and help sustain your downtime window more easily. And you are going to have a little bit of hunger to manage, and we will talk about that. But things like beans and legumes and whole grains and vegetables and fruits and eggs and tofu, moderate amounts of meat and cheese and dairy are going to nourish you and make you feel full up and encourage you to feel satisfied more easily. And, you're going to say more often, you're going to say no to things in packets with ingredients that you can't pronounce, and with particularly excessive sugar and high levels of oil And you're going to particularly learn. You can have some nice snacks in your eating window. What we say is that eating's got to be worthy of your window. We want you to remember that your body is a Rolls Royce. It's not a skip or a dumpster. It's not, it's not a waste bin. It's a beautiful, incredibly refined piece of machinery. So if you want to have a massive piece of chocolate cake, make sure it's a great piece of chocolate cake. And if you're going to have pies and cakes, make sure they're beautiful for you and make you feel good. And for goodness sake, forget the guilt. If you've got the eating window straight and you've got your time frame straight, forget the guilt, eat what you want. But gradually you will start to notice, and this whole food sane philosophy is about more noticing what you do. And eventually, so in Foodsane, we talk about my particular model is right amount, right food, right time. And eventually, you'll find that you want to have smaller amounts of food. You want to have the right amount of food for your body and your stomach. And people are so very different. Our biologies are so unique. I am a small amount eater quite naturally. Whereas some people are very, very satisfied and with nice big meals. They like a big meal in their stomach, and big respect to them. But basically, if you can remember, different cultures eat in different ways. That the Japanese, for example, have very, very low rates of obesity, and one of their eating philosophies is that you eat until you're 80% full, and then you stop. You don't actually overfill your tummy. And that's worth practicing with and experimenting with. I think it's quite a good philosophy. It's clearly very good for them. And in terms of amount, you can try to eat a little slower and gradually. That's my particular piece at the moment. I'm trying to eat slower. And in fact, I find eating really, really fast, which is a habit of a lifetime for me, really, really doesn't do me good at all. And things to eat that help reduce your intake of food, like green salads, are known to reduce the intake of calories that you have. So if you just even had a tiny, tiny green salad before you started your meal, you might find you eat less. But it's not imperative. This is the last step in the food sane model, and you will start to reduce the amount you take in after you've mastered your time window and improved your food choices. Yeah. So the raft mantra of Food Saint is right amount, right food, right time. But actually, right time is the first thing we look at. Yeah. So that's great. So what do you expect in your first week? You will notice hunger signals, and this is normal. And your body is learning this new pattern. Your body is saying, oh, what's going on here? You might find you adapt really quickly to that, and your stomach and your brain start to line up with each other. But just give yourself a chance for something new to be going on. Be patient, drink lots of water, and in your downtime, particularly drink water and distract yourself if you're a little bit hungry, because hunger is not an emergency. It will pass. And the hormone leptin is there as a natural hormone. It will kick in and it will quieten the hunger down. Actually, the GLP-1 medications produce leptin and slow down the process of digestion. And what we're doing in this middle way is in time related eating is we're actually encouraging that leptin. And you will find it will become louder. It will have a bigger voice. And we kind of need that, don't we, if we've been overeating? And it will start to say, okay, I'm done now. You really, really won't want any more. And your body will become more effective at that hormone doing its job. And then later on, perhaps days 4 to 7, you might actually feel this very quickly, but you'll start to feel lighter, not just in weight, but in your energy and in your mind, because you're not digesting food all the time, which takes a lot of energy. You'll feel less bloating and your mind will feel clearer. But actually, when your body has its downtime and it's cleaning itself out, just as our brain cleans itself out in our sleep, it's actually feeling happier and lighter. And we do need to clean out. We need to get the sweepers in and the dusting in and have a clean out. You will feel lighter in perhaps indescribable ways that you haven't noticed before. And after a few weeks, you may notice, but you may not. It doesn't happen for everybody that you notice this, but you flip the metabolic switch, which means that you begin to burn stored fat instead of constantly processing food. And that's when perhaps you could call this the magic that happens, that the body gets used to the idea. I can tap into my fat stores when I'm not eating, and I can use that stored fat up in my muscles and in my liver. And your blood sugar will start to balance itself, and your insulin will stop spiking because insulin is, in fact, the hormone that stores fat for us. It will settle itself down and it will say, oh, actually, I don't need to do any fat storing because I'm not constantly digesting food. And we're just gonna tap into the fat stores here. When you've stopped eating, it takes 5 hours for the stomach and the body to settle down and then consider itself to be fully digested. So that's why we need at least 12 hours out of food. And it takes 5 hours for that to slow down. And then your body can start cleaning itself out. And all that time, you might feel a little bit hungry, but you'll learn to get over that. And then you can just say, okay, well, I'm burning fat. And also, you can say to yourself, I will eat at 10 o'clock tomorrow and I will eat what I want. And then that usually is enough to silence the hunger. And of course, when we're eating, we have that wonderful ghrelin hormone, which is comes out and says, "Well, I'm ready to eat." It's fantastic, it's sort of like we're ready to rip food to pieces and get it down us, and that's fantastic. And there's nothing wrong with that ghrelin in your system, but it can quieten when you've had enough and you've satiated your system and you closed your window and you say, "Good night, tummy, go to sleep now. Here's a sip of water, settle down. I'm having some space from food." And that's the conversation we want to see you have with yourself. So, one of the things that you're going to have to master, and one of the things that's going to snag a lot of your attention is going to be your relationship with hunger. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that because, first of all, try and remember that this is not a one-stop shop here, that you are embarking on a journey and you are learning about your body, your biology, and your experience of hunger. And hunger can do all sorts of things into forcing you to eat outside your window. Okay, so we don't need that to be a great big fight. One of the things that we don't do in Foodsane is encourage people to fight with themselves. So, you're experimenting and you're observing and you're noticing lots about yourself, and that's the way we go. I think the first thing that is going to help you is noticing the stories that you tell yourself about hunger and the thoughts that are going to go through your mind. And so, for example, if you tell yourself, I'm hungry and I can't possibly think straight if I'm hungry, then that will be true. If you tell yourself, I'm hungry, but I can bypass that for now until my eating window, that will also be true. That your body will respond to the strength of your thinking. So there are going to be all sorts of unconscious thoughts in there, thoughts from your memory banks that are going to come into your experience and they're going to tell you the story of what they think should be happening. So, for example, in childhood, what my family did was a meal was served at 6 o'clock, but afternoon sandwiches were served at 4 o'clock when we got in from school. And I was always starving at 4 o'clock, and I always used to really eat those sandwiches because I loved them. And actually, at 6 o'clock, I was not hungry, but there was not an option about eating dinner. So I did eat a little bit of dinner, but not a lot. So my stomach, I mean, I was raised on that time frame. We lived abroad, even abroad, I was raised on that time frame. So my circadian, it's not even my circadian rhythm, to be honest. It's a learned behavior from the timetable of eating. 6 o'clock, my stomach says you need to eat now, and I do not need to eat at 6 o'clock. My window generally closes at 4. So it's interesting what I've learned about the 6 o'clock tummy rumble. My husband loves to eat at 6, and that's just totally fine. So I serve him dinner, and then my tummy says, "No, it's you need to eat now." I don't actually. I'm literally have had enough food, and my window closes around 4. The second time I might get hungry is bedtime, and the story I tell myself at about 10 o'clock in the evening is, "Oh, you can't possibly get to sleep if you're hungry," and that's also just not true. All I need is a few sips of water. And it's not actually hunger, it's my tummy emptying. And what you've got to learn to do is differentiate. And that takes a while. I mean, I wouldn't expect to jump in week one and know all of that. But it's very wonderful learning about yourself. So, when is hunger real? Usually, if you fasted for 16, 18, 20 hours, or if you're just learning about this, even 12 hours, you will feel a hunger that is perfectly true to your body. And you will feel that sense of that ghrelin coming to the fore, that hormone saying it's really, really eat time. And you will eat, and it's really enjoyable to eat when you're truly, truly hungry. But then there are other times when, you might be prompted and provoked by time frames or by seeing things around you. And these are the things to learn. So, we're primed by biology and by evolution to look at brightly colored things and want to eat them because we're primed to keep ourselves, from starvation. And of course, we don't need that in this day and age. And there is so much food that is brightly colored. And even now, I'm fooled by great packaging. Well, I'm learning from that even now. Um, so you've got to watch out for smells. Going past a shop where they're baking cakes and if you're really hungry, you're going to be provoked into wanting food. Seeing food, smelling food, and bright coloured things in shops are going to make you want to eat, and time frames are going to make you want to eat. And these are cues. They're sort of locked into the brain as cues to eat. When we eat in time-related eating, we learn to eat in a time frame. And eventually, it doesn't take too much. It's a training, really, a training between the conversation between stomach and body. And it does take some patience and endurance and practice to achieve that. And one of the things that we do in Foodsane training is I get people to just hold off a bit on food. We do a little practice with food. How long could you hold off for before you want to put something delicious in your mouth? That we do have the capacity to hold back, stop. We do have the capacity to stop. And I'm really big on teaching people. There's a thing that we all are not doing, and that is stop. Stop too much, stop buying too much, stop drinking too much, stop eating too much. It's a great command to yourself, and it's a great command in life. It's enough is enough. So we're going to get a hold of all of those things. So particularly want you to be aware of how you cue yourself into a good fast. You can cue yourself into eating if you want to, or you can be aware of the cues. But you can cue yourself into a great fast. So, for example, you can keep food out of the way if you're delaying your eating time. Keep food out of the way because you might take a dive for it, and then you'll be a little bit disappointed in yourself. Make sure that you've got plenty of water to sip because that will hold back the hunger for a little while. The stomach responds well to a few sips of water or some black coffee, or particularly a warm drink, just to say for a little while we're going to hold off it. But particularly, what is in your mind? Are you able to say to yourself, I'm going to have a halt here and I'm going to hold off until this time, and then I'm going to eat and I'm going to really enjoy my food, and then I'm going to stop again and I'm going to use the word stop and halt and I'm going to mean it. Okay. So be careful of your senses that pick up on food, and know that if you keep food out of the way, you're less likely to want to eat it. And then be very aware of the story that you tell yourself about what you should and must do. But most of all, have a compassionate stance. You're learning, and you will get this right. So many people have with time-related eating. And what you'll find is that the training into your brain will be powerful, and you will not have to eat. You particularly could start to tell yourself that you are now a time-related eater. You eat within a time frame. And if you start to identify as someone that does that, then everything else will fall into place. So I think one of the first things you need to do is decide whether you want to be that person. Give yourself a little while. I mean, you might want to take that first few weeks before you start asserting that you are this person. You are a time-related eater. So those are things to watch out for, and those are things that we're working with all the time on the Foodsane community. And I do hope that you're going to join us there. If you don't want to join the community, do the training anyway and get clear about what you're doing. But if you join the community, the training is there for you, and some chapters of the book, and the diary that tells you this isn't perfect. This is about adapting and changing and going absolutely in the right direction, and you can do it, and you will benefit in every possible way. So I'm really rooting for anyone that wants to do time-related eating. I know the benefits for myself have been enormous. I actually have really increased my relationship with my body. My relationship with food is very positive. I have a great relationship with food. I used to not even like food. I don't think I even used to taste food, but I like delicious food now. And that's a very, very big shift in my psychology and my biology. So I'll be thinking of you, and you don't have to do this alone. Come and join us, and we will be talking a lot about this voyage on the Foodsane journey. Bye for now. Thank you for listening. Check out the next episode on our platform. Don't forget, I'm a doctor of psychotherapy, not medicine or clinical psychology. My expertise lies in the field of applied psychology through psychotherapeutic models of practice. This podcast is not intended for diagnosis or treatment of any kind. If you are concerned about your mental health, do consult your doctor, who will guide you. If you are ever in a mental health crisis within the UK, dial 999. In all other parts of the world, check your mental health facilities or turn to someone who will support you.